Blackhawks fans, happy New Year! And the Hawks are hot. I am Ron Luce, joined by the one and only Mr. Tony Marchese. Welcome to the Four Feathers Podcast in 2026. This is Season 7, Episode 13, my lucky number. The post-Christmas Blackhawks. That's where it cut off on our title for tonight because our producer, me, screwed up. But the post-Christmas Blackhawks are hot is the name of tonight's episode. If you already follow us, we appreciate the shit out of you. But head over to YouTube, on Tab Sportsnet, like, subscribe, hit that bell button. You know when all of our shows go live. Head over to wherever you listen to your favorite podcast as well. If you're listening to us audio only, please rate, review. If you love us, give us some 5 stars, man. We'd really appreciate it. And if you don't, let us know what we're doing wrong and what we can get better at. Tony, sir, first off, hello. I haven't seen your face in a hot minute. You were in another state last week, doing some golfing, which I'm uber jealous of. But how are you, my friend? Blackhawks playing good hockey.
The Blackhawks are playing really good hockey, Ron. I'm doing well. I'm back from the sunny state of Florida. It wasn't exactly as warm as I wanted it to be. If we're being honest, it was 50, 60 degrees for most of the week. We got a couple of 70-degree days in there, but it's good to escape the Chicagoland weather in early January, and that's what I was taking a little bit of advantage of that. But Ron, while I was gone, the Hawks started playing well, and I'm happy about that. I didn't get to watch as much Blackhawks hockey as I wanted to down in Florida, but I did catch some of this, so you're going to have to fill me in on some things that I might have missed as we talk through this one. But Ron, it's great to be back on the microphone, and Happy New Year to you and to all of the listeners here as well. Ron, let's get into it because you, sir, have a busy night here at On Tap Sports, and I believe you're going to be running a Cubs show after this. So if you're looking for some Cubs news, I believe Ron here after this one is going to be doing some Cubs on tap.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was a hot minute without Ron Luce on Cubs on tap. But Tony, I tell you all the time, my season is the off season. And that even includes in the baseball world. So looking forward to the doubleheader tonight with podcast over at On Tap Sports. Tone, you said it. Let's get into it. Blackhawks are 4-0 over their last week. They're 5-1-1 since the Christmas break.
Undefeated in 2026.
Yes, they are. The Hawks are hot. The Hawks are genuinely hot. In fact, they're hot, as I like to say. This team is playing fun hockey right now. 2 wins over the Dallas Stars since Christmas, one of which coming on New Year's Day. That was their first win in the calendar year. Then wins against Washington, Vegas, St. Louis. No Connor Bedard, no Frank Nazar, and it doesn't matter. This team is humming at the right time. The young guys that are still here are contributing at a high level. Brian Green might be a little snake bit. Nick Lardis is finding his shot. Oliver Moore has thrived as a center since his insertion into that role just before the new year. Man, this team's playing fun hockey right now. Tyler Bertuzzi's on a fucking bender. Things are fun in the world of Chicago Blackhawks, Tone. I mean, I know you haven't been able to catch all of it, but how far, like, I don't know if you remember, Tony. I don't know if you remember, but people were telling me that this team should tank. And I said, but they're 5 points out. Just give it a second. And sure as shit, they've turned it around. And Connor Bedard might be coming back too. So things are looking up right now.
People were saying this, and Ron, we went through a little bit of the last place blues again. It felt not great when Connor Bedard got injured, and then Frank Nazar on top of that. We're doing that without him too. There's a lot of parity in the league. You and I were discussing this earlier. They're not really towards the top of the standings, but they're not really firmly in the bottom. So they're in the same really realm as, like, I think almost like 8 other teams right there bunched up. So anything can happen. Obviously, getting Connor Bedard, a healthy Connor Bedard back, getting a healthy Frank Nazar back, and having, what has been sort of this next man up for the young guys. And you talked about Ryan Green, you talked about
Well
Oliver
said.
Moore.
Well said.
It's been that next man up. I think that's going to build some resilience for this team, down the stretch and even into next season. And these are all young guys in their first or second year in the NHL, really. So,
Yeah.
To know that your team can sort of overcome that adversity of losing your star player and another top level talent in Frank Nazar and still rattle off 4 wins in a row. I can't say that that's not going to be invigorating for them as they get healthy and get, finish off this little stretch here in the back half of January before you take a break for the Olympics. And then you can really reset some of your health as well. There's only one guy as of right now on this roster that's going to the Olympics. It's going to be some good time off for everyone to rest, recover. Some of those nagging injuries will go away, and then it's gear up for that stretch run. I really like the fact of how they've battled. And I do want to say that, some of this could be, a little bit of the Jeff Blashill effect as well in getting these guys ready to play. We haven't talked a lot about Jeff Blashill lately on this show, but especially when they were going through some of these struggles. But, everybody wanted to point fingers at him when things were going wrong. And, it goes around, comes around, and here we are again. This team is hot. They're humming. And as you said, man, they're not that far out of a playoff spot. I don't think they need to tank. They should still wind up with some decent draft position regardless. And as far as I heard out of the World Juniors, there's some questions about Gavin McKenna as a number 1 overall anyway. So I don't know, Ron. We'll see what happens. But I'd rather them be playing meaningful hockey games as we get into March.
Definitely. One quick thing on the Gavin McKenna thing. I think it's more, though, of a testament to the rest of the draft class than it is to Gavin McKenna. Like, I don't think this is a shot at Gavin McKenna. I think a lot of people are going to look at it and they're like, oh, Gavin McKenna's not as good as we thought he is. No. I think he's still a really good hockey player.
Yeah.
I just think the rest of the draft pool has elevated their game. I mean, Ivar Starberg, who was playing over in Sweden with Anton Frondell, was spectacular in this tournament, as were a number of other draft-eligible players. I think it just speaks to the class and how deep it is. And that's why if you're the Hawks, you're happy just having 2 1s in this draft because there's a shit ton of talent in it. And they've done great so far identifying ones. Why not do it in a deep draft? But I digress. They've been so much fun, man. And I'll tell you what, the Penguins game, I think, was just, man, you're a little gassed from 2 road games. They went long. You're tired of that game for Pittsburgh. So I kind of dismissed that game. They played bad. They got their shit kicked in. It is what it is. Okay, fine. Move on. And they did move on. And they played outside of that first period in that Islanders game. I was at that Islanders game. I was at the fucking shootout loss. They were awful in the first period. But they turned on the gas in that second period. They tie it in that second period. Right before the horn, the sick Oliver Moore look up at the clock and dish to Lardis for the goal. I mean, that was an electric moment from that game. And Nick Foligno hit a post from 3 inches out before time expired in the third period, which could have won the game. And again, you got to capitalize.
I missed these. I missed these ones, Ron. There was a lot of talk. I know Nick Foligno scored in the shootout and sort of had some redemption for this. But have you seen the online discourse about him missing nets lately?
Yes. I've seen it in the games. I don't think it's that off. He hit either a post or somebody got, I think, a stick on his stick or something else happened. I believe in that Washington game. I think he had one that he missed. And, I think it's tough though, because I think in Foligno's case, they're kind of more so banging on his door because he's an expiring deal and he's older, and Ryan Green's snake bitten too. Like, I think they're just both snake bitten, just in different ways. Ryan Green can't get anything to go in the net. Nick Foligno is like, oh man, how does that not go in? It's just a different flavor, I think, of snake bitten for him right now. So who knows? He's also just coming back. Didn't he have a wrist injury?
Yeah.
Was that the injury he had?
Didn't he injure it in the fight?
I think so. So I think he's not fully there yet. Wrists are hard to come back from, and that's a lot of strength on your shot. So that could have something to do with it too. I'm not that, and that's kind of where I was going with that, though, is even though the snake bit moment happens for Foligno, like they're in that game. They're in it the whole way. And that's the beauty of these last 7 games. Outside of that Pittsburgh game, of their 5-0-1 record around that, they've been in every single game. They're not afraid to push teams to extra time. They're playing good hockey right now, and they're playing good team hockey. And this is important, Tone. And this is something that I get excited about, because how often have we seen in the last 10 years of Blackhawks hockey since they last won a Stanley Cup that when the top stars either get hurt or don't perform, nobody else can pick up the slack, right? That was the name of those teams in the last days of Taves and Kane, and then in the early years when they were just shit and they were rebuilt, right? Like there was a couple good players and they get hurt. This team looks like a minor league team to some. That's not the case anymore. Now you have those depth players showing, hey, if Connor Bedard got banged up for some reason, or Frank Nazar got banged up, or another top player gets banged up, there's somebody to step in and try to pick up a little bit of the workload. That's the sign of a maturing hockey team, a growing hockey team, and a team that's finding its depth, Tony. I think this team's going to be incredibly deep. I did a forward exercise with my dad the other day, and I was having trouble. I had Landon Slaggert as potentially the 14th forward next season, and that was with only re-signing one player and not adding any free agents. This team's getting deep, and they're showing it on the ice now, and that's so important about this recent stretch.
You are correct. Who did you have? Who did you have re-signed? I'm going to guess it was Mikheyev.
Yes, you guessed correctly, and I had him playing on the 4th wing. So it's a great problem to have, but it also shows that like now you're starting to get a flavor for the actual Kyle Davidson draft picks, right? This isn't like you're waiting for those guys. You're waiting for like you're starting to really get the first wave of those guys now. And look where they've hit. Bedard was Bedard, but Nazar was the 13th pick. And I know people, oh, it's a first round pick, but hockey's different than other sports. And there's always first round draft pick busts. Like that happens all the time. But they're identifying great hockey players no matter where it is in the first round. Sam Renzel was a late first. You know, you've got Vanacker and Nestrasil, who were guys picked after number 20 in the first round. They're finding talent there, and that's how you have to do it. And they're finding second round guys, and there's some third round guys starting to contribute. And you get Louis Crevier, who's playing incredible hockey, who was a 7th round draft pick. Like Kyle Davidson's fingerprints are more and more on this team than people realize, because not only did he take over as GM, but he was actively involved in some of those drafts, kind of those like the 3 years before him. So the Louis Crevier, Alex Vlasic, I think it's why he shelled out that deal to Vlasic. I think he was probably banging the table for Vlasic. He was in the hockey analytics department by that time. We're starting to see the fruits of that labor, and they're starting to show depth. And if Oliver Moore was your third line center, or Frank Nazar was your third line center for the next decade, I think that's incredible talent evaluation, and I think that's a great problem to have, because the Blackhawks have never had that kind of depth down the middle. It's spectacular stuff, man.
You're excited. You're excited. I could see the excitement on your face when you're talking about this team right now, Ron. And that's a good thing, because I don't think we've ever been this excited about a Blackhawks team since we started this show.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's why this is such a fun time right now to be a Hawks fan. Like, because we've talked about it before, Tone. Like, they're kind of playing with house money. Just enjoy the ascent to just see where this goes, right? Enjoy the fun of it. Enjoy what it is in the moment, because sports has shown it's unpredictable and you never know. But this could be the start of something really fun again. Like, people remember the banner years, which is their 100-year celebration right now going on at the UC. They want to bring that juice back again. And I think we're getting closer to it by the passing game, not even by the passing season.
Yeah, it certainly feels that way. I think there's still going to be some bumps in the road, Ron, as we come down the stretch run here. You know, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but for what it's worth, this is a year that there really wasn't playoff expectations on. As far as,
Yeah.
the outlook coming into this season, I don't think anybody said the Blackhawks are a surefire playoff team and it's a failure if you don't make the playoffs. We're getting closer to that time, though, where it does get stressful because there are going to be expectations. So, as you sort of alluded to, I agree with this wholeheartedly. This is the year, and maybe next year, where you can have some fun with it, and it gets a little stressful from there on out in terms of trying to compete where the expectation levels are going to be in, what'll be Connor Bedard's, fourth year, fifth year versus where we're at now. So, man, it's going to be interesting to see. I was checking in on some of the Rockford Ice Hog guys, Ron, and Sam Rinzel had 7 assists in 10 games down there. When do you think we see Rinzel back up with the boys?
I think after the trade deadline. And I think that's because there's a good chance that the Hawks' bottom pairing could both be out the door. Grzelcyk and Murphy, both expiring contracts.
Grzelcyk's been a sneaky good pickup too for Kyle Davidson.
He has for $1 million. I mean, it really depends. I think here's where it depends. I think Grzelcyk, somebody's going to want to pay them a lot for Grzelcyk. Like, hey, yeah, we know you're like actually competing for the playoffs this year, Blackhawks, but like, come on, Grzelcyk's not a part of your future. We kind of need him. We're like struggling with depth or whatever. We'll give you a 3rd round pick for him. Probably not going to get a 3rd, but maybe you get a 4th, right? Or maybe you get, because we've seen Kyle Davidson use 4ths and 5ths to just move around in the same rounds, right? We've seen him move up in like the 2nd round before, and maybe he throws in one of those 4s. So you can never have enough food in the cupboard. That's how I feel about draft picks, especially this point in the rebuild. Eventually, you got to start sacrificing them for assets. But right now, they're able to do it. They're able to get through it. And I really think that's when we'll see him. I think there's a world where they don't trade Connor Murphy. I could see a world where Murphy goes up to them and goes, guys, even if you don't want to bring me back after this season, I just want to ride the wave with these kids. And I'll go sign with a contender next year on a 2-year deal and take a shot at a cup. I could see a world where that happens because I think he's probably even invested. He had a goal and an assist tonight or last night. Yes, he was. He is our graphic player for today on the thumbnail for good reason. He's playing inspired hockey, and he might not want to give that up this season. He might want to just ride this thing through and then say, hey, like, and maybe they're like, hey, look, Connor, we can get a 3rd round pick for you, and that might help us. Then maybe there's some bargaining to that. But if they go out there and they're like, hey, we're not just going to give him away for a 4th round pick. Like, if you're going to pay, we'll trade him, but otherwise we'll hang on to him and let him ride it out. So we'll see. Lebowski asks here, he says, is Rinzel defending well in the AHL? I admittedly have not watched enough Rockford Ice Hogs hockey recently to affirm to that. I probably would have to get to a game to truly get a good feel for that. So we'll have to wait and see there. I'm not entirely sure. And then Lebowski also says Murphy has been really good defensively. He has. And, he's been less noticeable than some of the years past. And I feel like for him, that's usually good because he's not, he just got burned, right? We haven't seen a lot of that with Connor Murphy right now.
That's what I love that defensive metric, man. When you don't see a defender out there on the ice a lot, it means they're not making a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
And if you do see them for a lot, it normally means there's not something good going on or that they scored a goal. I mean, there's no in between. So I'd agree with that on Murphy wholeheartedly. I thought it was good to see him get on the board yesterday. It was, he doesn't score very often, Ronald, but when he does, you can tell he's a very happy human.
Yeah, he's always fired up when he's able to put one in the back of the net. We love a Connor Murphy goal. Tony, I don't know. I'm trying to think this through here, but Connor Murphy's 6'4", right? Did he play at like 220 in years past?
I don't know. I wish there was a way to go back and look at height and weights.
Because
what they're listed at. What is he listed at right now?
He's listed at 212. He looks like almost more fit, dare I say. he looks almost lighter on his feet. And I think that's why, because Murphy played a very heavy game. He's not playing as heavy this year. He's still getting involved, but he's picking his spots a lot more. And I wonder if that's him just being like, hey, if I continue at the pace I'm going, I'm gonna be out of the league by 33. He's like, I'm trying to push this to 34, 35, 36. Did he like lighten up to be a little faster, maybe a little just more fleet of foot? I don't know. It's just every time they show his face, I'm like, he looks different. And I can't put my nose on the exact difference, but he looks different physically. And I think
I noticed that too. He looks a little thinner in the face, you know?
Yes. Yes. That's exactly where I've noticed it.
I just thought he was getting older.
I think he's hitting his prime. He's just a late prime, 32.
Hey, look at what Duncan Keith was able to do.
That's true. Duncan Keith was crazy. But I mean, if we're being honest, I'm going to take a quick side tour from our rundown here. Tone, I'll bring it back, I promise. But
okay.
Like Connor Murphy, to me, I feel like isn't appreciated enough in what he has actually done with the Blackhawks, just because they've been bad in that time. But when you think about what Nick Hjalmarsson only played for 2 or 3 more years with the Coyotes before he retired, a lot of injuries got him late in his career. The Hawks have had Connor Murphy, who, yeah, he's had his injury struggles too, but he's been here for what feels like forever. He is the longest I think there's a chance he's the most tenured Blackhawk by, I think he's a higher number than double any other player on the roster. It's like if somebody has 3, I think it's like, yeah, I think Lebowski's right here. 9 years, maybe. So,
because wasn't that trade was it in 2016 or 2017?
I think it was 2016. I think it was 2016. So it was the same offseason they traded Panarin.
Yeah.
So maybe it was 17. Regardless, if we're still even pushing 8 years, like who's the next closest? Maybe Dickinson at like 3 years.
Well, I mean, Bedard's been here 3.
Okay, so 4 then for Dickinson. Right? He got here the year before Bedard, did he not? Without looking,
without looking, there's no one that's on this roster that is anywhere near.
So even if you double their number, some of those guys don't even get to Connor Murphy. So like, I think
how long's Louis Crevier been around for?
That's a great question. I think it's about 4 for Crevier too. Maybe no.
Maybe he was up and down for a little bit.
Yeah, probably 4, maybe 5. Honestly, we're doing on the fly research here.
He's only 24 though, so he can't have been that.
Yeah, but I think he like got some looks even as like a 20-year-old.
No, this is only his 3rd year.
Is it?
23-24 was the first time he was in the show. It feels like he was around a lot longer, but.
To Lebowski's point, it's Crevier's 2nd full year in the league. He bounced up and down that first year. Yeah. We're all on the same page here. Also, yes, happy Thursday, everybody from Daniel Berry Sports. Regardless, Tony.
Connor Murphy's just he's been here. He's seen everything. He knows where all the skeletons are hidden in the Blackhawks closet.
Yeah, he does. He's been a steady presence on this roster for a long time and in the organization. Tony, speaking of guys that we appreciate, you actually mentioned him. Connor Bedard. Feels like a return is imminent with him.
Yes.
Del Mastro was sent down to Rockford. It opens up a roster spot. There was no corresponding move. So I feel like he's returning. It kind of does.
Eyeball emojis.
Yeah, eyeball emojis indeed. It makes you think, do we see him Friday? Do we see him Saturday?
I think we're going to see him in one of those
3-game stretch. Yeah, I think we see him in the next 3 games.
I agree. And it's going to be a breath of fresh air. Not that the team really needs it right now because they're playing so well, but to just have that scoring threat back in your lineup, kick it into another gear maybe, Rod. Maybe you see a blowout victory over the weekend.
That'd be sweet. Kick the shit out of Nashville. That'd be fun.
That'd be fun. And they need to win that game. I'm sorry. I was at the other National League. I believe you were as well.
I was.
That was embarrassing.
That was embarrassing. That was a
That
bad
was
hockey
embarrassing.
game.
It was bad, and the Hawks need to look for revenge down on Broadway this weekend.
I agree. I feel like the Hawks also got their revenge over the Blues, right?
They did. Not that we didn't, stomp the shit out of them earlier this year.
No, but the last time you played them, they held on to a 1-goal win, and that's the day you lost Bedard. So at least that one was like, we'll come back, and without Bedard, we're going to kick your ass in our own building, which, Tony, I forgot to mention earlier, an important point you mentioned getting through January.
Uh-huh.
Like, this team's at home a lot in January before the
are.
Olympic break. And that favors a young hockey team that can get the second change when you're trying to play matchups when you're shorthanded. And it comes at a time when the Blackhawks need it. That's for sure. Anything additional from you, sir, on Bedard? Just the only thing I noted also, Jeff Blashill's been kind of teasing that, like, Bedard's back soon. With his language, day to day after the St. Louis game, he was ruled out for the St. Louis game. We'll probably, if we don't see him Friday, I think we see him Saturday
for sure. And they might want to rest him one more day in the back-to-back and not have him go in both of those games, and so it would make more sense.
Exactly what I was thinking.
For to give him that extra one rest day. But Connor Bedard is probably jumping at the bit to just get back on the ice. He skated in practice a couple of times. I believe it was all no contact jerseys. I don't know if they practiced today, Ron. I wasn't looking, but I know he's been on, sort of that pseudo fifth line, scratch line that they've had. So it hasn't really looked like he's back yet. But some of that could just be some strategery by Blashill and the coaching staff for anybody who's scouting them out for these upcoming games. So I think you see him this weekend for sure. My guess is he probably wants to play in all of them, and that there's a very good chance that that's going to happen. I would say if he doesn't start tomorrow, you will see him on Saturday and at the very latest Monday. I don't think they want to continue holding him out if they don't have to. So that's all I really have. I'm excited to see Connor Bedard back on the ice. It's a much more fun hockey team to watch.
For sure.
In spite of the winning that they're doing right now, Connor Bedard on the ice is just game changer. So I'm ready for that, Ron.
Absolutely. And it would be cool to see him return in the black sweaters, because they're wearing those against Washington on Friday. So it's like Batman returning to Gotham.
I wish we had that game on Friday.
I do too. I've thought about that a lot recently, but that's okay. Neither here nor there. Tony, let's keep this thing moving. There was a big piece of Blackhawks news today, albeit maybe underwhelming to the general public, but I think an important move for the context of this team moving forward, and that is the deal involving Laurent Brossoit heading to the San Jose Sharks. They get some goalie insurance with him. Because he cleared waivers, he can go straight to the AHL. I'm sure that's where they'll put him, and if they need a change of backup or just somebody gets hurt, they feel good about their depth then, because they're in a playoff race, Tone. They're defying a lot of expectations as well, just like the Hawks are, with their young core as well. So the deal fully is Chicago sending Laurent Brossoit, former first-round pick defenseman Nolan Allen, as well as a 2028 seventh rounder. And San Jose sends defensive prospect Jake Furlong, Ryan Ellis's contract, because he is pretty much medically retired at this point.
He hasn't played in 3 years now.
Yeah, he had. I forget exactly what he had, but it was something career ending, unfortunately, which is a bummer because Ryan Ellis was a stud in his heyday. But they get his contract for the last year of it, which will be next year and the rest of this year, obviously. But they get a 2020.
He's going to be a Blackhawks legend, just like Shea Weber.
Sure is. A pair of old Nashville defensemen are Blackhawks legends now. And Tony, there's a small part of me for the sake of the troll that would be willing to spend money on a pair of jerseys with Shea Weber and Ryan Ellis in Blackhawks.
This is an interesting proposition that you make.
It's it could be fun, and it could really piss off Nashville fans, which would be spectacular. Truly.
Do we we wear him down to Nashville and go to a game with Ryan Ellis and
I
Shea
wanna
Weber Blackhawks jerseys?
I wanna get out of Nashville in one piece, Tony. We'll do it in the UC. At least you got reinforcements that way. Because that's a bit of an aggressive play. But again, Tony, the importance of this trade is I noted in our rundown. It's to help them get to the floor next year. I think next year's the last year they need help getting to the floor. It's just because they're going to have a ton of ELCs next year with new contracts needed for some of those young guys on ELCs the following year. And that's why I don't think they're going to do a lot in free agency. Maybe they'll re-sign Ilya Mikheyev. But largely, it's going to be, hey, we're saving that money because next year they can extend Artem Levshinov. So just like we had the Nazar extension, you could get one of those with Levshinov. You could get one of those with Wyatt Kaiser. You could get one of those with Oliver Moore. You could get one of those with quite a few of their young players. So it's the last year of those guys on those 900K, 850K type contracts. They're probably going to be getting maybe 3 or 4 million a year. Their cap's going to start looking a lot like more teams in the league with just a ton of young players on those deals. So this is the signal of, hey, this is the last year. The 6 pretty much confirms we get to the floor. They'll probably still do a couple little things. I don't expect Kyle Davidson to completely sit on his hands. But then at least
probably a trade here or there.
I think a trade absolutely could happen for Kyle Davidson and the Blackhawks. I also think, Tony, again, I think they could re-sign an Ilya Mikheyev for maybe like $4 million. And then again, if that's all you end up doing because other things don't work out the way you want them to, then you can sit back and go, okay, well, at least we're at the floor where there's no penalty here. And then next year we know our cap's going to expend by another 25 million because all these young guys are going to get paid.
So you like this move? GM Ron approves. Stamp of approval from GM Ron here on this one.
This trade, Tony, really,
because I want to hear what you have to say because I've got some thoughts as well.
I think this trade, really at the end of the day, this trade is you're taking a little extra cap money for next year because San Jose's hitting that decision like the Blackhawks are going to with young players needing to get paid starting this coming year. I think Will Smith is up for a new deal. So they want to get that contract off their books. They have a lot of expiring deals that are going to help free up a lot of money too, but I think they're going to be aggressive and maybe try to add a couple guys in free agency, and they're kind of getting some of these bad contracts finally off their books now. So really it's the Hawks saying,
quite a few.
They do. It's pretty much the Hawks saying, hey, we'll take Ryan Ellis's deal off your hands. You get out of $6 million plus next year. You save $3 million-ish this year if you're the Sharks. So if they want to trade for somebody at the deadline, that helps with your cap at the trade deadline. Furlong for Allen's pretty much a wash. And Lebowski had a comment earlier. I believe this is in reference to Nolan Allen. He says, I don't like the Hawks helping the Sharks, gifting them their future second-pair defenseman for the next decade. I don't know if Nolan Allen hits that potential. And if he does, I'm okay with him walking away because I don't think he's playing over any of the defensemen in Chicago right now. And I think at the end of the day, you're saying, yeah, we'll take a flyer on Furlong who feels like the same player, and you improve a draft pick from a 7th rounder to a 4th rounder in that draft. It's fine. It's fine.
This deal to me is just too weird because I feel like the best player involved in it is Nolan Allen. And maybe that's
which feels wild, doesn't it?
It feels wild. I mean, Brossoit, we all know, that there's somewhat of a question mark here as to what he's going to do at the NHL level, but he's a veteran. He's been around the league, so you kind of have a baseline.
He's been a really good backup for a long time, which that's all San Jose would need him to be.
Yes, but I mean, at the same time, like, I feel like we've done this song and dance now for a long time.
Yeah.
Do we like Arvid Soderblom? Do we not like Arvid Soderblom? Some days we like him. Some days we hate him. Could Laurent Brossoit have been a better option than Arvid Soderblom long term? I don't know. There's some age there as far as where that's at, and there's other goalies in the pipeline. But it just feels like this was like, you're sort of giving this wild card in Allen to the Sharks, where if it does pan out, you've basically just rented a contract to help you get to a salary cap floor, which, okay, understand the necessity of doing so. Don't like it, but got it. You got a 4th-round pick out of the deal. That's cool, but you're still, you're swapping a 4th for a 7th just to get some value here. And then, Furlong, could he be Allen? Could he not be? It definitely doesn't seem to have the same pedigree, so to speak, as Nolan Allen. So I feel like you gave the two better assets in terms of what that is, just to rent some contract space and clear some players off of your roster that you just didn't have use for right now. Some of those
100%.
trades sometimes come back and bite you. And I'm not saying this one will, but it's also the Sharks, and there seems to be, at least at the fan base level, this like, hey, we're both competing for the same thing and being the team that rebuilds faster almost. And, helping them out just sort of seems counterintuitive to trying to win that race, even though that's not what Kyle Davidson's trying to do. He's trying to build to win the Stanley Cups down the road. But just from a fan perspective, it was like, okay, here, take these parts that we were told were good, and we get back an expiring or 1-year contract of dead money for a guy that can't play hockey, a draft pick that we can't use for a couple of years, and this other guy that no one's heard of really in Blackhawks circles. It's not like a trade that you're going to sit there and go like, oh, Kyle Davidson did a great job. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that Brossoit, it was rumored that he had asked out, and you're trying to do right by him, but it just feels like you're given a little bit more. Just, do Brossoit for Ryan Ellis's contract. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah. I think there's also some, you mentioned doing right by Brossoit. I think it's also doing right by Nolan Allen. I think this gives him a fresh start, and that was not a popular pick when it happened. And I think a lot of people have still felt that way. I think he can have a fine NHL career. I think he's ultimately like a solid he's a fine third pairing defenseman. I think that's unfortunately his ceiling, which those guys
so you're not as high on Nolan Allen then as some people are.
No, I really have never been, if I'll be brutally honest. Again, just my opinion.
Fair enough. I mean, even Ethan Del Mastro came up and didn't play. So
right. Like, and I think Del Mastro was above him in like the depth hierarchy of the young guys. So like I think Ethan Del Mastro has more potential with Chicago long term than Nolan Allen does. And again, if he goes and he does become a second line pairing defenseman for the Sharks, good for him. Sometimes those guys need that opportunity. And again, there is still a people aspect to this. And like, if a guy's blocked, why are you just going to keep blocking him? It seems like the Hawks do try, like Kyle Davidson tries to do right by a lot of guys.
Yeah.
He's been very player loyal, at least to where like, I'll be fair to you, at least be fair. Right. Like, and I think he's being fair to Nolan Allen. I think he's probably telling Nolan, hey, you weren't a me pick. You were probably a stand pick. And I think we have people above you in our depth chart. There's a team that wants to take a chance on you. We're going to let you go prove yourself, and like, good luck. And we wish you well. And, that way you're not just wasting away in Rockford. And I think that's a great thing. And I think a lot of teams do that. And I think we don't realize it sometimes as fans. So again, I'm fine with the trade. I really am.
True. Fair. Good points.
So, neither.
It was a weird thing for me.
Definitely.
You want to talk some World Juniors?
Let's talk some World Juniors, Tone, because I think you watched a lot more World Junior hockey than I did.
I did watch a lot at the beginning, and then I had to jet off to Florida right there after Christmas, so wasn't able to catch a ton of it. But I was really impressed with what I saw out of Anton Frondell. Yes. I'll tell you that. I watched quite a bit of Anton Frondell, and then in the U.S. games, I know we'll talk about Neshersil in just a minute, because Frondell and Neshersil played in the finals. I wanted to talk a little bit about AJ Spelcy. Our guy Blackhawk Cowboy has been all over that guy for a while, and I've been high on Spelcy as a prospect too. I didn't really expect him to get an IIHF World Juniors nod. If I'm being completely honest, Ren, it just didn't feel like he was one of the guys that people have, talked about a lot in Blackhawk circles lately, and for probably no other reason than the pipeline just has so many names in it, and other ones are moving a little bit faster through the system. But I really liked the way that he played. It had more of a spark plug, sort of a bruiser type of a game there. It was hard in the corners. It was digging out pucks. I really, really, really liked what I saw out of AJ Spellacy. I think that's a kid that can add a little sandpaper to this team in the coming years. Should he get up there? But all the development is still going to have to take place and translate through Rockford and up into the NHL. So it's still some hurdles to cross. But I liked what I saw out of Spellacy. And then again, Anton Frondell, man, it was very reassuring, I think, as a Hawks fan.
Good
because
word.
we talked about this a little bit ago. You had mentioned, that his team over in Sweden had sort of like pulled him down the lineup a little bit, and was that cause for concern? You see him go out there. What he had 5 goals in 7 games. It was a point per game player, and arguably one of the better players of this entire tournament. That's what you want to see out of your number 3 overall pick. Very excited for this kid to get stateside. Very excited for him to make the trip over, and I hope that happens at the end of this season. Ron, Nassersil, there was a good moment in between the two of them who played in the finals game. Apparently, he told Frondell to fuck off after Frondell beat him. But that's what you want to see between teammates. They're starting to develop this kind of rapport. I love it. I think that attitude is great. It kind of reminded me of the Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves, Canada, U.S. type stuff that you would see in international hockey. It was a fun tournament. I love the World Juniors. I know a lot of people were shitting on the tournament this year because it was in Minnesota and there was somewhat of an absence of fans, especially towards the final games when people were already back to school. I believe Canada had gone back to school already. And plus you didn't have the U.S. or Canada make it all the way to the finals. And I think that just sort of dries up the tournament a little bit. Not that the teams that competed for the final aren't good hockey teams. Obviously, there was a lot of good competition there overall, but World Juniors hockey isn't probably going to draw as well in the state of Minnesota as you may think it might. So
sure.
I don't know. I love that tournament, Ron. I don't care where it's held. I just like seeing the next batch of prospects come up, and you can learn some names of guys who are about to get drafted or already on your team, and get to see them play in some heightened competition over a 2-week period there. So, Ryan, I love it. I don't know if you got the chance to tune into any of it, but I think the biggest thing that I might take away out of this is watching Frondell was very reassuring for me as a Blackhawks fan, that this kid can get into the NHL and be an impact player for the Chicago Blackhawks.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, when it comes to Frondell, the shot, man, that's him and Lardis feel like those guys that are just going to have that shot, and they're going to.
It's a heavy shot.
It is a heavy shot, and it's fun to watch. I'll tell you, he was named forward of the tournament. I mean, there was a lot of good stuff for Anton Frondell. Obviously, a gold medal is huge too. I think that's just a confident booster for him. I agree. I like what Spellacy did in this tournament. I like that he made the team. I think you're seeing the value of a guy that's got a scoring touch but plays balls to the walls on every play. You need those guys, right? You need your Colton Docks of the world. And I think Spellacy has a legitimate chance in the future to make the Blackhawks roster and be a potential difference maker in probably the bottom 6, but like do it at a high level. And I think that's going to be critically important. And then I'll tell you what, man, I really like Vaclav Nestrasil. The more and more I see him play, and you're right, Blackhawks Cowboy all over it for a hot minute now with Spellacy. there's been some people all over it as well with Nestrasil too, and he's kind of the passing player, right? He had 2 goals, 5 assists, so 7 points for him in 6 games. He had a couple sick no looks, a no look goal, and I think 2 no look assists. It feels like, and then you mentioned the friendship that he and Frondell already have, the fun exchange in the handshake line. Like that could be a fun story because Tony, what I'm starting to wonder, Nestrasil is crushing it at UMass this year as a freshman. If you're the Blackhawks, do you ask him to sign so you can get him in Rockford ASAP? Or do you let him go back to college for another year? I want to think they would let him go back to UMass for one more.
I think you let him go back to UMass for one more, and you delay out that eligibility just to get a different cycle going with some of these guys.
Sure.
In terms of payment, because what if he signs next year? You're starting his ELC, and that runs 3 years.
Right.
You're going to probably be at the same time as Anton Frondell.
No, well, Frondell, if Frondell signs this year, I don't know I think that burns a year of his ELC.
Oh, yeah, you're true. If he play,
so he's only going to have 2 years after for Frondell probably. So even if you delay Nestrasil another year,
is there the 9-game rule still? What does that apply?
I think because it's after like the trade deadline, kind of when all the rosters lock. I think it burns an ELC year. I think that's consistent because that always happens with college guys. If they come up to the NHL right away, it burns an ELC year. They've done that with they did that with Kaiser originally. They did it with Ryan Green.
And you got Kanserov too coming.
Well, his contract technically doesn't expire till June 1st. So I don't think he can sign until after June 1st.
I'm saying next year.
Sure.
Assuming that you didn't have or you don't have Frondell sign this year, you would have a potential of Frondell, Kanserov, and Nestrasil all riding that same wave.
Yeah, that'd be your next wave, as you've already mentioned. So yeah, man, it was a fun tournament. They did a great job, and it was cool to see a pair of Blackhawks playing for the gold medal in the last game of the tourney. Tony, couple really quick points here before we get to our segments to start to wind down the show. Standings update. There is no what they are out of the basement because I don't give a shit. They are 3 points out of a playoff spot.
Boy,
that's how it stands as of today. Or at least when we built this rundown.
How many are they out of the basement?
I don't know. I didn't do the math.
Didn't
even look. I just looked at the last wild card spot and I X'd it out and I put the number in and I deleted it out. I don't care.
So you are definitely firmly into this team is competing.
They're competing.
Even
if they miss the playoffs, this team actively going for it is going to help guys develop better than just tanking and letting the season rot away. Give them something to play for. It's going to make them play better hockey. And that's going to build momentum going into next year. And I firmly believe that. You got enough young guys on this roster where that's going to be fucking valuable to them if they get that at a young age. I really feel that way. So don't care. They're 3 points out of the playoffs.
Anti-tank Ron is
anti-tank. I am anti-tank. I am fine with them picking between pick 14 and pick 22 probably on both of their picks, unless Florida goes on a run and it's even later. I don't care. It's fine. But all their good news, a former Blackhawk hit a huge career milestone this evening, right before we went live. Patrick Kane scores number 500 in his career. He scored 499 earlier in the game. Empty netter for number 500. Pretty much stamping him as a Hockey Hall of Famer as soon as he retires. One of the best and obviously still beloved in the world of Blackhawks hockey. It's cool to see Patrick Kane get number 500 tonight.
Yeah, it sucks it's in a Detroit uniform. I'm going to be the one to say it. Fuck that.
I agree with you.
But no, yeah.
I don't think there was ever even a question of whether or not this guy was a Hall of Famer. Would have loved to have seen him sort of just, take a spin with the USA team too at the Olympics. That would have been nice. They picked a lot of other guys that their career pedigree sort of put them there. I digress on that topic. We'll talk more Olympic hockey as it gets closer. But Ron, it's getting close to time to shut this thing down. We got, I think, some ruffling feathers and some stick taps to do.
I believe you are correct, sir. Let's run them down and get into them.
It's time to ruffle some feathers.
Tony, I am going to turn it over to you first. Do you have any feathers to ruffle?
Feathers to ruffle, maybe a little bit of my own. I don't know what is going on here, Ron, but I took a little bit of a vacation, as we can call it. We talked a little bit about that at the top of the show. I don't know what it was. Normally I've got my routines. It's Blackhawks game. I've got my recliner I sit in and watch. Normally throw on a Blackhawks jersey. Go on vacation. This team has won every single game that I've been out of a routine. And last night, instead of following my normal routine, I shook it up a little bit, Ryan. I came down here to the basement, tossed the game on, just completely not where I normally watch the games. Might not be able. My old routine might be shot, Ron. So I don't know what's going on. I got to ruffle my own feathers a little bit here. We got to do something to keep this win streak alive.
I love it.
I know we've talked about this a lot, how we're doing it. You sort of like started watching more hockey when I went on vacation, and I was like, not checked out. I mean, I was watching X, and I'd throw it up on my phone. It was weird. I tweeted about this one time. CHSN app would work on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
I could watch the game. I log in on my iPad. Same Wi-Fi in the hotel room that I'm connected to here, and it would tell me that this game is not available in your area. The hell is that all about? I would pull up my laptop, go to CHSN, not available in your area. How is it working on my phone? I don't know, but it was a little hard to watch the Hawks with just a phone because you're on vacation and like everybody's texting and stuff, the kids and my mom is there and everybody's texting. And so I didn't get to, really enjoy the games as much. I had to just sort of like, monitor the situation. Last night was probably the first game I watched since the Saturday game on like, what was that? The 27th, but they did good in me not watching. And then, so I tried to change it up yesterday. I came down here and watched the game and, it started out a little shaky, but it wound up to be a really, really great game. So we're going to try and keep that momentum going around. I'm ruffling my own feathers. We're going to ditch the old routine for a little while. We're going to start a new routine, and that routine is going to help propel this team to the playoffs. You heard it here first. Ronald?
Love that.
Ruffle some feathers.
Dare you say new year, new you, new routines. It's perfect. It's perfect. Ties right into us celebrating the new year. Tony, I am going to ruffle some feathers. In fact, this might ruffle your feathers a little bit too. I beg people to please stop thinking this Blackhawks team is going to spend big in free agency this year. They're not. The free agency market is, unfortunately, because of the quickly rising cap, drying up a little bit. And the Blackhawks aren't just going to pay guys right now because they're going to have to pay these young guys in a year or so. They want to be able to pay those guys and keep them around. That's going to be important. Again, they might retain Ilya Mikheyev. Maybe they do make a small signing, right? We saw them sign Sam Lafferty last year. We've seen those type of depth moves before, and that might be all they do, but that's kind of their bread and butter right now. And maybe to your point, Tony, they make a trade, right? Maybe they get a player who's in like the last year of his deal and the team just wants to move off the money so they can make another move or something like that. Give it a shot. Let him have it. Burakovsky's been great. I've loved Andre Burakovsky with the Chicago Blackhawks. It's been fun. And we get another year of him next year too. I could see them taking that type of swing, but that's going to be where they accumulate cap. It's going to be things that are expiring. It's not going to be big, long deals. excuse me, and quite frankly, there's a chance that it's not really going to be that great of a free agency market this year. Guys are already getting extended. Alex Wenberg, Christian Dvorak. Dvorak would have been fun if I do my recollection correctly. He's a Palos Heights native, so that would be fun if he was a Chicago Blackhawk. Local kid on the team would be kind of cool. I digress. It's
your
going to
neck
dry
of the
up.
woods.
Yeah, my neck of the woods, indeed. The free agency market's kind of drying up for a little bit until teams start to get uncomfortable with what the cap number is based on what they actually bring in real dollars, which I think could happen for a few years. Eventually, they'll have to slow the cap down a little bit. I think there's a chance they'll have to do that. We'll see. But right now, everybody's happy to spend what the cap is and the rising cap is. And they've got the money and they can do it. And it's like, yeah, fuck it. We'll do it. Let's do it. It's going to be awesome. We're going to go try and win this thing. So don't get your hopes up. That's how I'm ruffling some feathers here.
If I haven't heard this out of your mouth about 15 times already, I would probably be a little more ruffled, but I get more access to your Hawk slots than the listeners do. So, I hate this reality that we talk about here. I don't like it one bit. Yeah, I want that, like, oh, they just went out in free agency and like this is immediately going to help the team. I'm instant gratification oriented, just like most other fans are in that aspect. However, dial things back. I think this is a good PSA for everybody as to why that's not going to happen. And I kind of understand, over the past few years, we've been talking about this. They've never really been comfortable going out and making one of those moves. Are they going to have to do something to get themselves over the hump down the road? I think so. I think they're going to need to acquire some outside talent. I think it would be naive of anyone to think that this team is going to be completely homegrown, but it's going to be a majority homegrown. Like it really is. It's a majority of this is going to, that first playoff run is going to be a lot of Davidson drafted players on it. And, that's not traditionally how you've seen a lot of, teams built in these recent eras. So,
yeah,
it's a different strategy. I just like everybody else do not like the fact that that's the market. I want there to be, just a name that's out there that you can go and sign and bring in, and immediately he's a 30-goal scorer. That's what we wish for, Ron. But you're telling us there's not going to be presents under the tree on
no.
On your July Christmas, 1st, on your Christmas.
Yeah, on my Christmas, there will be very few presents under the tree, unfortunately, for Blackhawks fans. But I think we're going to start to see, I was talking with a good friend of the program and always listener, our good friends down in Dallas. There's probably going to be one or two guys that do an Alex Vlasic and Frank Nazar contract, or as Matt puts them, the Ronald Acuna contracts is how he phrases it. I think they're going to happen. I think we'll see those after July 1st. I really do. I think we'll get at least one. Probably, I'm willing to put money on two. And if I had a bet, it's probably Ryan Green.
Artie?
No, I think it's going to be Wyatt Kaiser.
I do think Wyatt Kaiser needs to be locked up more long-term. He's been
really good. And he'll be in the last year of his deal, so he can sign an extension after July 1st. So I really do think, because I think if they can get Kaiser at the number, I think Artie's going to be expensive. I really do. Or at least if he does sign a lower contract, it's going to be like 2 years, because I think his ascent is this.
Artie?
I think it's going to,
there's some stuff, and I hate to be the bearer of bad Artie Levshunov, news, but like some of these game scorecards that keep coming back are fucking horrible.
Yeah.
And, he doesn't 100% of the time look elite. Like, it was interesting to me last night. It was a tale of two Artie Levshinovs. You have what everybody's saying about him online, and then you have the game scorecard. And last night it was really present. If you weren't paying attention, you would never understand what I'm talking about. I've never seen him get as much praise for his play last night by the talking heads, and then also see the game scorecard come back and him be the worst player on the ice.
I think because he doesn't play the game like a lot of guys do, and I don't.
No,
think
he plays his own game. But I was talking to an old friend of the show last night as well, and he said this guy is the most fucking erratic person I've ever seen out there trying to play defense.
Yeah.
So
erratic is a good word.
Erratic is a great word for it.
It is erratic, but I think his offensive upside is going to continue to grow because of what he can do offensively.
Which surprises me as to why this guy plays defense. Like, why did
he'd be a sick winger?
It would be an awesome winger. I'm not. Don't get any ideas.
Is it the next Dustin Bufflin here?
Good Lord, that's what I. That time it worked, but it doesn't work very often.
No, it doesn't.
Could you imagine if Artem Levshinov does move to a wing at some point?
No.
They just decide that I'm gonna
Oh,
throw it out there. This is just tinfoil, hypothetical. This won't happen. But if he moves to the wing and has a better season on the wing than Demidov does,
oh my God,
that would be so hard.
Oh, the world of hockey would explode. It would
Montreal would have
just lose their minds. They would lose their minds. Now, I think I mean, look at what Bufflin did when he got to Winnipeg, though. He went back to defense. Well, Atlanta originally, and then Winnipeg. Right. But he went back to defense and still was super productive and improved his defense game. I think we forget that Artem Levshinov is also 20 years old. He's gonna get.
He looks 35. 40,
I know he looks like a grown ass man, but he's gonna continue to get better, dude. And I think I see what the Blackhawks saw and why they took him, but he's gonna play Artie hockey, and that's why I think Wyatt Kaiser's so important to keep, because he knows how to play with Artie, and he lets Artie Levshinov be Artie Levshinov and be a different.
Yeah, but there's gonna be a point where it gets frustrating here.
Oh, sure.
And it's going to be because it's erratic. And a lot of it is, he's like that guy that plays on your Chelsea squad who they tell you to play defense, because you're the last one jumping on for the night. And you're not really playing defense. You're there to score. That's already Levshinov. You're like, why are you over here? Get the fuck back in the zone and play some defense. But, he does drive play, and he's an exciting player to watch. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot where I'm just like, everybody's raving about this kid, but there are holes in the game that should be talked about. And I can see, the Blackhawks coaching staff has had to, sort of rein him in a couple of times. And you had the incident where, he was late to practice and stuff. He just seems like a guy that goes at the beat of his own drum. Artie Levshinov. There doesn't seem to be a lot of conformity there. And some of that could be problematic. And I don't know, I'm not in the room, but it was just interesting that we went through, that exercise with him out of everybody else. And, for better or for worse, he provides a lot of great quotes to the media. So that's what makes me even better. It's just Artie Levshinov is Artie Levshinov. And I think that you said a lot of people forget he's only 20 years old. It's going to be interesting to see what this kid grows into.
Sure.
Because continues like this, and he keeps that personality alongside that play style. It's going to make for some memorable moments, good or bad.
Indeed, I wholeheartedly agree. It's going to be a lot of fun to see. Tony, we went off on a hell of a rampage there. We have another segment to get to, so let's get to it.
We do.
Time to give out some stick taps.
All right, Give out a stick tap, Mr. Marchese. What do you got for me?
Who are we giving a stick tap to today, Ron? You know what? I'm not really sure, but I want to give it. I almost want to give it to the whole team, minus Connor Bedard, Nazar, because they're not there. And I sort of alluded to it too. Could it be sort of the Jeff Blashill?
Mhm.
Ryan. I just think the whole team has done a really good job since the Christmas break to come back and just battle, man. Like you can point to a lot of individual performances, but in the grand scheme of things, it takes a team effort to win a couple of hockey games in a row. And when a lot of people thought it was time to pack it in for the year, these guys said no, and they went back out there and they've been competing. So for me, it's really just a collective team stick tap. You kept yourself and your season alive when you had the most adversity that you could possibly have this year. So, I think it's just been a good all-around effort, and hopefully it continues, right? Stick tap the entire team.
Well said. I like that you bring up Blashill too, because that was something that I wanted to mention quickly about Levshinov without us getting too deep down that rabbit hole. Was I think because the D activates so often, that's why he brings value as a difference maker and as a potential scorer or an offensive generator. So, but I think Jeff Blashill's done a great job. He's inspired these guys. They're playing inspired hockey, right? You mentioned completely backs against the wall, adversity, like the worst possible thing that probably could have happened to this team this year happened. Your top two centers go down, and yet like they're still finding ways to win hockey games. And that takes a team effort, and that's everybody in that organization, not just the players. So I think that's a great call out by you. My stick tap, Tony, is to an individual player. He's a guy that I briefly mentioned on my solo show right before the new year as we turned the page to 2026. And that is Oliver Moore, because it was announced right ahead of that Islanders game, he was going to be playing, ahead of that Dallas Stars game, or the Penguins game, that he was going to be playing center. And he's been brilliant at center, Tony, because I believe it was Jeff Blashill who had the quote. He said, he's really impressed with how Moore has played, because when he's on the wing, his speed is always 24/7. And he almost can't weaponize it as much because he's just going fast everywhere, and he's, trying to apply pressure and generate looks. Because of his ability to pass and because of that quick speed as a center, he's able to do so much more because he can drive play, and he's done it. He's got great feel for the ice. The passing is electric. Yep. He can score, and he's able to use that speed to, when he gets the puck, he can find the space and hit it fast and really put a lot of pressure on the defense.
You've been on this for a long time on Oliver Moore. And I just like you should take a larger victory lap, in my opinion.
No large victory laps. But I agree. I like the way I'm starting to look at this team going forward is it's Bedard, it's Nazar, and it's Moore down the middle. I don't care who's the fourth line center. And I don't care who's on the wings, because those guys that's your pillar. One of your pillars of this team, your core of this team is that group. And they'll continue to build the blue line to be where it needs to be. And I think they're going to get some great wingers. I think Frondell is going to be a great winger. I think Kanserov is going to be a really good winger. I think Spalacy could be a really good winger in the bottom six. Like
there's so much that you have to fill out with the rest of the roster.
Yes, there's so many options.
A lot of options.
Oliver Moore taking this step, I think, was largely unexpected by a lot of people too. For him to take this step as a center and really start to show what he can do, and it's like, oh my God, why were we playing him in the wing? You have to leave him at center at this point. So it's going to create some really interesting decisions. And I think he's delivered. He got the TNT interview, man. You're in the big spotlight, kid. Good for you.
I was surprised, but also very excited for him to get that opportunity last night to be the TNT interview. And I can't, I took a picture. I posted it from Four Feathers because I thought that was important for people to know. If you weren't tuned in after the post game, to know that Oliver Moore was the guy that they wanted to talk to.
Yeah. Well, because what was the last relatively viral TNT Blackhawks moment? It was Bedard and Nazar against the,
Yep.
and that we're not getting bullied, not getting pushed around. This team's different. Our culture's different now. We're here.
I bet you Oliver Moore didn't think going into that game last night that he would be the one that TNT was interviewing.
No, but there's your three. Again, right? The guys that usually do those type of interviews are either the guy that just balls out and has a huge game or the kind of the faces of the franchise. And it kind of feels like Oliver Moore's making his case to be a face of the franchise alongside the Frank Nazars and Connor Bedard.
I think a lot of people forget that Oliver Moore was a first-round pick right behind Connor Bedard in that same draft.
Yeah. I believe the 20th overall pick or 18th overall pick.
If you don't have, if you don't have that number one pick there and your whole year, like say they had a better year, whatever, and you wind up with, Oliver Moore, I think there'd be a lot more spotlight on Oliver Moore. And I think that the best thing about the fact that Oliver Moore, has in Connor Bedard is that there's not as much pressure on Oliver Moore to be something because he's kind of hidden behind Connor Bedard in that draft on the same roster.
Absolutely. Yeah. I do think I think we would be talking about him as a draft pick if they don't have the first overall pick a hell of a lot more. I agree. I think it would almost be very remember like Tavo-esque, right? We're talking about a guy that's currently on the roster. When he got drafted, there was he was like an 18th pick in the draft. There was a lot of spotlight on Teuvo Teravainen when he was coming up. There was a lot of kind of pressure to be the guy. And he was also at the time a center and then eventually moved to wing, where Oliver Moore ended up kind of doing the flip-flop. He was a center in college, but started on the wing in the NHL and then moved to center. I think he would have gotten a sooner look at center.
You could go back through draft classes where they were picking in the 15 to 30 range and sort of just like look at some of these other names. And like the spotlight was just on him with Oliver Moore. He floated right under the radar just because Connor Bedard was here. Yeah. I think that's benefited his game a lot. And, it's not intentional, but you're just not focused on Oliver Moore as one of those like picks. Or as a top pick, so to speak. You kind of more expecting a second round talent, and you got another first round talent right there in the middle of that draft. So I don't know. I personally like Oliver Moore.
I also personally like Oliver Moore. I will note this too. People should remember the Every Shift episode after the 2023 draft. They showed Davidson's reaction that Moore was there when they were picking again. He goes, I can't believe he got here. They really believed in Oliver Moore. They were fired up to get Oliver Moore as that second first round pick. And you're starting to see why, because this is what he has the ability to do. He's a game-changing player on the ice.
Yeah. I was there when they walked him and Bedard up on the stage in Nashville, and that was a pretty electric moment. Ronald, I don't want to continue down this too much. I know you probably might still be trying to run a Cubs show, so it's getting rather late here. But this was excellent Hawks hockey talk. Do we have anything else left on the agenda? Are we gonna
we
read
do
out the next set of games here and then get on out of here?
Indeed. Just a quick what's on tap next. Upcoming slate of games. We mentioned Friday, January 9th against Washington. That's a 7:00 start. We mentioned the black jersey will be worn for that game. That's at, again, the United Center. Saturday, they go to Nashville on this second half of a back-to-back. That's also a 7:00 start Central Time from the just terrible dome that is where the Nashville Predators play. Monday, January 12th, it's Edmonton at home. That's back at the UC. It's a 7:30 start. Tony, we have tickets to that game. I don't know if I will personally be there, but we've talked a little bit about that as two of the best players. I shouldn't even say two of the best players. The two best players in hockey, in Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, come to town. And then after that, Tony, the Blackhawks are home all the way until their game on January 22nd. They'll be in Carolina for that game. But other than that, it's 3 more home games after that Edmonton game. There's a lot of home hockey here in January. I believe it's the Flames. I believe it's the Predators. And then I believe it might Oh, and then it's the Jets because that's when Jonathan Taves returns to the UC for the first time in another uniform. So big games coming up in a lot of UC hockey for the Blackhawks in the month of January. Tony, we have one addition to the games they'll want backtracker. I put that New York Islanders shootout loss on there because I genuinely believe they should have won that hockey game, even though they had a really bad start in the first period. So we're up to 6 games now on the season that they'll want back. Tony, as always, what do you say we get out of here? Let's go Hawks.
Let's go Hawks.